Welcome back to Two Who's Review. I'm Alex.
I'm Fitz.
I'm Sam.
And for the next 6 reviews of Classic Who, we will be tackling the Key to Time storyline. To the best of my knowledge, it's the first of 2 season-long story arcs in Classic era Who, beyond character arcs like getting Ian Chesterton and Barbara Wright home, or getting Tegan home, or anything like this. This is the first of 2. It's this and it's Trial of a Time Lord.
The only other one, and granted, I didn't even really was fully aware of this until I looked it up on the TARDIS wiki today. But the only other one that you could consider to be like that is season 8, because every story in that season features the Master.
Right. Okay. But that's still character stuff. So.
Yeah. There's no big goal or big overarching thing that happens there. Anyway. Yes, a season arc.
And we're looking at the...
No, go ahead.
Well, we're looking at the Ribos Operation. It's the first part of Key to Time.
Yeah. And a longer season, I think, than is generally done with Classic Who, because there's 6 stories to this season, not 4.
Yeah. Before we get into this episode proper, Sam, normally when we have a guest on, we kind of assign a classic story, or Fitz kind of assigns a classic story, and we're like, okay, this is the other one you're watching. And we try to tailor it somewhat to the tastes or our knowledge of the guest, but sometimes it is just kind of like let's just do whatever. You specifically requested that we do not Key to Time. I guess Key to Time technically.
Yes. So
yeah, you did. Yeah.
Yeah. Please explain.
Before I answer, I will provide the listeners and refresh you guys on the context of how this all came about.
Yes.
Earlier this season, we're discussing what the next classic episode we're going to watch alongside whatever episode we were up to. And I said, I have a request, actually. I would like to do The Power of Kroll, which I believe is part 4 of the Key to Time. 5?
Yeah,
okay.
Part 5.
So, and then Fitz, you pointed out, that's part of the Key to Time. We really should do all of them together. And I said, actually, that works out, because the Ribos Operation is another one I want to look at for the same reason. Just those 2, not the Key to Time arc as a whole. Now, before I explain why those 2, do you guys have any guesses?
Well, I haven't seen The Power of Kroll, so no. I do not know what the link between these 2 episodes is that means you would specifically watch them.
I'm going to go either with a similar actor that's in both of them, that, given my knowledge of the shows you like, Sam, maybe they were in Only Fools and Horses, or something thematic.
Okay. I'll just also throw out a guess. Were these episodes that you'd watched as a kid and hold some kind of sentimental value?
So, these are not episodes that I watched as a kid.
Oh, I'm close.
These are episodes that I read as a kid.
Oh,
yeah.
The novelizations.
These are the only 2 that I remember reading. I'm pretty sure I read a couple other ones, but Ribos and Power of Kroll are the only ones that I like. I'm pretty sure I read Power of Kroll first, but I remember Ribos more, or at least I have more memories about reading it. And we'll get into some of the stuff along there, but yes, these are ones that I read the novelizations of, and actually, I don't know if I ever watched them, or at least not completely.
Right.
I have.
Was this before you started watching Doctor Who? Or was it as a result of you already having the knowledge of the show from having seen it family?
It was back when ABC started airing it at 6 p.m. and it started from the very beginning. And because my mum was a big Doctor Who fan growing up, she was like, "Oh yeah, you should watch Doctor Who." So I start watching it from the beginning. start getting into it more generally, and we find like novelizations of some of the stories in op shops. So I had started watching it, but I read Kroll and Ribos well before we were up to Tom Baker's era in terms of what was being shown on TV. So by the time we got there, I was still watching it, but not as consistently. So I feel like I remember seeing maybe the first episode of Ribos, but I don't really remember watching the rest.
Sure.
And like maybe again one of the episodes of Kroll, but that one, even the book, I don't really remember super well. But yes, that is the mystery solved of why we're doing this.
Good bit of behind the scenes lore for the podcast. This story is okay. I think I enjoyed it more actually the second time watching it. I think its strengths come from really four of the characters, the four major side characters being I can't believe I'm forgetting their names at this point, but the two thieves, the two rogues,
Garen and Unstoff.
Unstoff, yes, thank you.
Yes.
Garen and Unstoff, and Graf Vindicay and Sholak.
Yeah.
I like their characterizations. I like their character arcs, and their character arcs even kind of surprised me a little bit, which is quite enjoyable. I also really love the banter between the Doctor and Romana, and the fact that it actually does have a little bit of a character arc too that gets tied up in a bit of neat characterization at the end. What's the name of the guy who figures out Binro? He's also quite an interesting character. I don't know if the plot is anything to write home about. I really hate to say, but there are a lot of moments where I did feel a bit bored watching this story. I've seen better plots in Doctor Who. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's pretty hit and miss for the first half. Then something happened in episode 3 that made me really perk up, and then it went back to being kind of like not hit and miss, but like kind of like, well, this is okay, and sometimes it's a bit dull.
Sure.
I don't know. I always forget there's a first Romana.
Yeah.
Purely because she existed in her second form for longer. If I'm right about that, like, and so I'm on record. Like I've had issues with Romana in the other stories that I've seen Romana 2 in. If you recall, the majority of the time, it's because Romana 2 serves a very poor audience surrogate because she already knows everything the Doctor knows, also being a Time Lord. So you can never really have moments of the Doctor explaining stuff to the companion and by extension the audience. Like, I think this was most prescient in the Leisure Hive, when a lot of the time in that I felt really confused because the expositional dialogue was so lacking that it didn't really do a good job explaining the situation. Romana 1, there's like the show's trying to do like a student mentor kind of thing, where the Doctor is like mentoring Romana on the universe itself. So like that solves that issue. But like it's got another problem, and maybe this will work itself out as we progress through Key to Time. But there's something about Romana being assigned to the Doctor as a companion rather than the Doctor choosing Romana himself that kind of makes me go, okay, how good is this bond gonna be? Because there is a lot of hostility. Certainly not Sixth Doctor levels of hostility towards Perry.
But it's there.
It's there, and a little unpleasant because Romana's just doing her job, and it's kind of like, well, she's being very pleasant, and she bites back every now and then, but it's always playful, and it's never like there's never hostile in that direction. And the fact that the Fourth Doctor is like very like there's a lot of animosity there, and I'm kind of like, oh no, I don't know about this. And
let's be clear. He's being quite misogynistic through this story. Let's not bear any bones about that.
But something else that I always point to, and it's part of the reason I dislike Rose, is because I'm like, well, you know, the Doctor's companions are like often put in this big echelon. The Doctor oftentimes is like, I pick my companions well. So when a companion does very little to demonstrate why they're there, I'm kind of like, oh, this doesn't really work for me. It's also a similar thing with Chibnall's companions. They very rarely actually get to do important stuff. So it kind of makes them fall flat as companions, at least compared to all the other ones. And Romana does get stuff to do, but the fact that the Doctor doesn't specifically pick her, I don't know. Like I said, I'm going to have to watch this dynamic moving forward and see if it changes. But yeah, I don't know. And I get that's kind of a recurring trend with Classic Who, where the Doctor is there are many occasions throughout Classic Who where the Doctor is like seems to resent the fact that there is a companion. Full stop. Like you see it. Like with Fourth Doctor Sarah Jane, it happens every now and then. The First Doctor's companions get that quite a bit. Sixth Doctor's companions, even every now and then, the Fifth Doctor and the Third Doctor have moments where they're like, looking down on the companion, and like it's just so weird as a new Who viewer, mainly just because especially when you're introduced to like Rose, the love interest out the gate, it's such a wild deviation from how the companions often got treated.
And I think that. And I realize we can only say this with hindsight, but maybe it's the fact that we can look at the classic series as a pre-Time War as opposed to post-Time War Doctor.
The
post-Time War Doctor, even though obviously they go through a variety of sort of different emotions when it comes to how to relate to the companions. There's that strong sense of loss with them, so it's like they want to hold on to the friendships, even if there is a little bit of antagonism between the characters. But with the classic series, there is a bit of, I guess, you would almost call it a bit of Time Lord arrogance, I suppose, in the way that the Doctor talks to their companions. I mean, you got a little bit of, I think, a bit of respect between, like, the Third Doctor and Sarah Jane, and from memory, you've got a fair bit of respect between him and the Third Doctor companion, Liz, mainly I think because she's a scientist. Man, he tends to shit on Joe Grant a fair bit during his run, and it's I guess at the time people thought it might have been funny, but now it just kind of looks a bit uncomfortable.
Like it's one of those things where I'm like, to what extent can we ascribe certain behaviors to the Doctor as a character versus the people writing him?
Oh yeah, no,
in the period that he's being written.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, at a certain point, that just is the character. Like the people writing the Sixth Doctor wrote the Sixth Doctor that way, and as a result, that's who the Sixth Doctor is.
Oh yeah, like sure, but like to use an extreme example, you know, I don't think of Bugs Bunny as being a racist, but he did do blackface a lot in the 40s. Because he was being written by people who thought that was funny, you know?
Yeah, I agree in that, Sam, in that, it's like important to appreciate the historical context. There was certain expectations and stereotypes. Some of them,
like, yes, he's
some of them way more disturbing than others, but
it's.
I mean, well, I think like I saw an interview once with Terrence Dix, and he said that there was an interesting period in the 70s, and this is when, you know, second wave feminism and the women's lib movement was really, you know, picking up speed. And he said that, in his opinion, the companion was meant to be, you know, the damsel in distress, you know, tied to the board with knives being thrown at them while the Doctor solves the mystery. But he actually admitted, I realize that we can't really do that anymore, so which is just a interesting...
Well, if you remember, Elizabeth Sladen had Elizabeth Sladen had a very similar view. Like, we discussed how in Sarah Jane's departure episode, Elizabeth herself was like, I don't want this to be all about Sarah Jane because the show is about the Doctor. Or something to that effect.
I mean, that probably, again, it's just sort of more a symptom of the cultural norms at the time. And I think, and to be fair, I think I even said when we looked at the Hand of Fear, given how much weight is given to the emotional core of the Doctor-companion friendships, especially in the Moffat era, it's kind of astonishing to see one of the most famous companions just leave so unceremoniously.
Well, especially because that isn't necessarily the precedent. Because if you remember, Ian and Barbara had a grand old send off at the end of the chase. We got to see quite a lot of them enjoying
that
their
cute
life
little
in
montage.
London.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's precedent and of course, for shining a big spotlight on a companion departure.
Yeah, and of course, Susan and her.
Well, yeah, of course, Susan. Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's kind of obvious because she's his granddaughter, but still. But yeah, I mean, it is a little strange, I suppose, seeing the way the Doctor treats their companions, because there is, and again, as I said, maybe to an extent it goes back to Time Lord arrogance, but he does tend to treat some of his companions with a little bit of contempt. And it varies from Doctor to Doctor, but yeah. But even if you look at the relationship between the Seventh Doctor and Ace, as fondly remembered as it is, there's kind of a weird, sort of a dark distance between them, which sort of culminates at the climax of The Curse of Fenric, which we do have to look at that story at some point. But anyway, the point is, Cuff, yes, I see what you mean. There's a weird, strange...
The point is that Doctor Who's writers are not great at writing women.
Yeah.
And
they
haven't really gotten any better, have they?
They got better for a bit, and then...
Yeah.
I mean...
better is a relative term.
I mean, but we'll have more to say of this, I think, when we look at the Moffat era, because there's things to go in, I think, about that topic in that era as well. But it's not a great track record. And by the way, as a sort of appendix to this, everyone watching or listening to this podcast, please go and watch Verily Bitchy's video essay, Doctor Who versus Women. Thank you again, Hadley, for showing me that video, because it's really good. Anyway, back to Romana. No,
sorry, you had more to say about Romana?
Yeah. So it's been years since I've seen The Key to Time. So I can't confidently say how much of a character arc she has. I am hoping, though, that the rest of the season does have her and the Doctor's relationship develop more as more respectful colleagues, I suppose, as opposed to the fairly obvious contempt that he shows her. Like you mentioned, Cuff, like you felt weird that this was a companion that was just assigned to the Doctor, but I think it has the potential actually to be a really interesting
there's a way that can be done really
character relationship. That the I guess not enemies to friends, but the
because that's arguably how Donna started. She just appeared in the TARDIS one day.
I guess so.
Yeah.
But the point is, like, you see what I mean? Like, that sort of, there could be potential here for good characterization. And I will point out again, the last scene, when the Doctor says, "Oh no, you should be the one to get the piece of the Key to Time out of the Jethric stone." That, for me, is a sign that there's a bit more respect growing here. Which I find quite interesting. It
was a good sign.
Whether that's going to be continued, I can't quite tell you.
I will say on the topic of Romana that I like Romana 2 more, but I haven't really seen enough Romana episodes of either incarnation for there to be any reason for that beyond the lesbian in me thinks Layla Ward is hotter than Mary Tam.
That old chestnut. That's often a thing with you, isn't it, buddy?
Yeah, yeah. I'm
Why do you
sorry.
like
I'll
Clara
just
again?
because she's hot.
There you go.
Because Jenna Coleman is an incredibly attractive woman, and I would let her do many things to me.
And that's why the character of Clara is a good one.
Exactly.
There we go.
Hey, well, okay. What if I were to say that I think Mary Tam is better looking than Lala Ward? Sam, what would you say to that?
Fight!
I would say clearly we have different tastes in women, which is not surprising. As we have different tastes in many things.
That's also very true.
But also more generally, I like that. I mean, I'll just say I like this episode a lot in general. Personal nostalgia for the book notwithstanding.
Yeah.
There's one reason for that I don't think you two will find relatable at all, and it's not being gay. But I'll get to that. I would be
surprised. I would be surprised if that factored into this story.
No. But like, I actually quite like. I like seeing a different dynamic for the Doctor and companion of like, oh, well, normally I just sort of like whisk someone away and like get to show them how cool I am. But no, this is a person who's been forced on me who knows how not cool I am.
Yeah, no,
because she has a record of my personal history on our shared home planet. Yeah, I think that dynamic makes for a really interesting thing, and I hope they continue to do stuff with that dynamic.
Yeah, I hope so too. Well, I hope Romana Wanda doesn't just become another companion, because it'd be such a waste to have like another proper Time Lord in the TARDIS and not do stuff with that.
Yeah.
Well, and that's sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was saying, I get why the default companion is person from 21st century London.
I hate that though.
I know. I get it, but I always think it's way more interesting if like Leela is more interesting because she comes from a like comparatively primitive society.
100%.
Someone like Adric, for as annoying as he is as a person, is like, hey, he's not from 21st century Earth.
He's from a different universe.
Interesting. He has a different he has a different perspective on things that you normally don't see. That's interesting. Even characters like
Nissa.
I was going to say as a more recent example, I really like Nardole probably more than he deserves, because I'm just like, hey, you bringing something new to the table.
Exactly.
And I'm getting interesting character interactions and stuff out of this character being here.
Or even Jamie, for example, because I mean he's from Earth, but definitely not from the 20th century. And it's funny though that also does continue the antagonism between the Doctor and their companions, because the second Doctor shits on Jamie a lot. But anyway,
I mean, to your point, Sam, there's a lot of 12th Doctor bias on my end, but I think that 12, Bill, and Nardole is one of the better TARDIS trios.
Yeah,
it's a really strong dynamic.
Well, and actually, to your point, your broader point, Sam, I think I mentioned earlier, I do really like the banter between the Doctor and Romana, but it does speak to a slightly deeper characterization. Because yes, it's really funny. It's really funny when she's like, it's better than scraping through with a, what was it, like a 50% on the third attempt, and the Doctor's like, that information is confidential. You know, it's all good fun, but there is something deeper there. That
she knows how old he is, but he doesn't.
Yeah, it implies, like I said, antagonism between Doctors and companions, but this is more even, right? Because yes, the Doctor is a bit cantankerous and cranky towards Romana, but she can give it back to him as well as she takes it, right? And that helps also with the misogynistic element to it, because even though that on some level might look a bit ethically disturbing nowadays, the misogyny is undercut with the fact that Romana is able to stack up against the Doctor, is able to make fun of him when he needs to be made fun of, by the way, and is also someone who seems to be maybe not literally as intelligent as the Doctor, but pretty close, right? So I think there's a neat balance that's occurring here. And as I said, hopefully this relationship gets developed more further on in the season.
So the other reason I really like this episode, that you two probably won't find relatable at all, is this is a Prime Directive episode.
It fucking is.
As told
Holy
by
shit.
Doctor Who.
That's true.
Can you give some context to that? I don't.
So the Prime Directive from Star Trek is like a Prime Directive episode is about the Enterprise encountering a society that does not know about space travel, has not advanced to that technological level yet, and usually the ethical thing is like, we can't let our presence be known, we can't affect their development, if we are going to investigate it, we have to do it in secret, in disguise, all that kind of thing. One of the best ones is in season 3 called Who Watches the Watchers, where a bunch of Vulcan offshoots see Picard beam up from their secret research base, and then they all assume he's a god. Ray Wise from Twin Peaks is one of the lead Vulcan guys in that episode. He's really good.
He's really good.
On
April the 1st, I specifically said that you were banned from talking about Star Trek for the rest of the year because it went on that long in that episode. How dare you secretly get us to talk about the Heat of Time storyline so you would have an excuse to bring it up again? You motherfucker.
See, this is something I completely forgot. I didn't remember that this... I didn't remember that this was an element of it. Basically, all I remembered was Garen and Unstoff as, like, a con artist duo, the Graf as, like, insane royalty guy and his guard, and that there was the fucking... what's the monster thing called?
Shrivendal.
The Shrivenzal, that's it. I remember that there was, like, one of those in a room behind a big, like... big, like, door, which I always pictured as being, like, way bigger. Like, in my mind, the Shrivenzal was, like, T-Rex sized. But yeah, like, those are pretty much the only elements of the story that I remembered from the book. I didn't remember that there was, like, the whole, these guys are posing as members of this society because they're more technologically advanced, and the locals are all primitives.
Yeah.
And they want to exploit them for their. I assume they're exploiting them for their resources.
Yeah.
Well, not even as it turns out. That's all just part of the con.
Yeah, they're exploiting the prince, the royalty.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a narratively dense story when you think about it. Like, there's quite a lot going on at the same time. Like, each character has their own clear motivation. They intersect with each other in fun ways.
And there's decent character arcs too.
It's really decent character arcs. Like, everyone felt really well defined by the end of it. It's okay. Well, I was gonna start at the beginning and briefly mention the fact that the Doctor is assigned this quest by this creature called the White Guardian, who's like, I wasn't sure, and like I didn't want to look it up because I didn't want to get spoiled, but I wasn't sure after that one conversation if he was a Time Lord or just like some greater cosmic being. I believe it's the latter, but again, I didn't want to look it up just in case. Yeah. Okay, cool. It's not the most like it serves its purpose for being like, this is the inciting incident for getting the Doctor to do this, is to just have someone tell him to do this. Like, it's not the most like in depth or like complex thing, but it works well enough. If it works for Genesis of the Daleks, it works for this.
Yeah,
I will say, I
go
also largely forgot that the key to time was a thing in both of these stories. I mean, Kroll more so because like the whole episode is that, and then they just get the key piece at the end. But like specifically that this had like the inciting incident of the White Guardian being like, I'm picking you, and if you
also,
don't
like,
do it,
I'm wondering if every key to time story is going to be like this. But the fact that the MacGuffin itself is not just a piece of the key to time, but is also this incredibly important, like, historical and cultural artifact that is also incredibly valuable, and everyone wants it. Like, there's quite a few things that it reminded me of, but in a weird way, the first thing that it called to mind was the direct to TV/DVD Australian animated movie based on the book The Magic Pudding. That's just because I've had that on the brain
I was
recently.
reminded of a different niche Australian childhood reference in the form of the Del Toro Quest series.
Yeah, good point. By the way,
either way, it's like everyone wants this one thing, all for different reasons, and it's just chaos ensues. Like it's a really fun way of like exploring a new landscape and a new planet and all this stuff. Like it, but you have a really clear picture of the world of Ribos by the end of this. Yeah, I mean it's just really effective storytelling at the end of the day.
Also, I'd just like to make a small side note, and I'm sure Sam will agree with me on this. Del Toro Quest is awesome. Fuck J.K. Rowling and Emily Rodda all the way.
Yes.
Make sure you know there's a comma after Rowling, so you're not accidentally saying "fuck J.K. Rowling and Emily Rodda" all the way.
Thank you for that contribution, Cuff.
Just wanted to point out that the English language is fucked and it's terrible.
Touche.
Can I briefly talk about my biggest takeaway from this story? Like the thing that really stood out to me in terms of like what stayed with me after I watched it. And it's really minor and it doesn't even factor into the larger story, but it's the conversation between Binro and Unstoff. When Binro was talking about his crazy theories and like, this is the thing that I believe with all my heart, and I guess I'm just a crazy man, and Unstoff gets to be like, no, Binro, you're right, all that stuff is true, and you get to watch Binro like just like it's such an incredible performance. Like it's like elation mixed with a deep sorrow of what he's had to go through unjustly. Like it broke my goddamn heart. It was such a great scene, and it didn't even need to be here.
Well,
I mean, that is the episode at its most Star Trek. So, if you want to see a show with more scenes like that...
Stop trying to convince me to watch Star Trek! I told you 6 fucking months ago! We're done with this!
Actually, well, the interesting thing is, Cuff, that moment where, the fact that he will be proven right, or at least there's a strong implication that he will be, is that the sort of conversation that was missing in The Unicorn and the Wasp in regards to Agatha Christie's literature? Like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, here I meant to point it out, but there's a similar conversation in Unquiet Dead, where at the end, Charles Dickens gets to be like, you seem to have knowledge of the future, Doctor. Just tell me one thing. Do my books last?
Yeah,
I feel like, I meant to say it again, but I feel like that conversation, as short as it was, is a bit more effective than just the Doctor saying to camera, Agatha Christie's gonna sell some fucking books, guys. But anyway.
But yes, it is quite an effective scene. And I guess it does help with the world building. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much it impacts the plot, but I think it does help with world building a bit, and also with characterization, because he tragically dies. And that there's a pathos that, we as the audience feel, but also Unstoff and I think Garen also kind of forced to confront those feelings as well, which is quite good.
Mm.
Can we talk about Graf Vindicay and Sholak for a minute?
Oh yeah, like what an evil prick.
Yeah. Well, actually, here's the thing. That is true. He's a royal asshole, so to speak. But I really liked right at the end when Sholak has died.
Yeah.
He genuinely shows care for his comrade, and the reason
It's
why
quite
I
nice,
like
yeah.
it is because I would expect even in other Doctor Who stories for this character to see their comrade as just expendable. It's like, oh, or to even kill them. It's like, Sholak, you've served me well in the past, but now you must make the ultimate sacrifice, and then bam, to shoot him in the head. Instead, we get this scene. There's a surprising amount of pathos to it, and that did subvert my expectations. I thought it was actually quite touching, but it works because that it definitely doesn't make him a morally great character, but it tempers the
well, it just gives that extra little.
bit.
It gives the smallest amount of humanity to make us go, "Oh wait, the real person and not the cartoon character."
But at the same time,
you are insane and evil, but like you're a guy.
Yes.
Guys have people that they like, even when they are insane and evil.
You got a weird kind of sense of honor to you, with that.
Well, because the whole thing is like their bond, their friendship is as a result of being war buddies, more or less. Even with like that rank difference between them.
Yeah, that's very true. But I think it also works because, and this is mainly due to Paul Seed's performance. It doesn't cancel out the fact that the Graf Vindicay is horrible. He's a horrible person. And to Paul Seed's credit, God, he is having fun. He's having the time of his life playing this character.
He's having a good time.
It's such a classic, like, evil British royalty sort of character. To the tiny details of how he pronounces every single word, it's just great. It's a very fun performance.
This is one of the other of three main, like, vivid memories I have of the book. And I'll get to the third one later, but
sure.
His death scene, where in the episode, it's like he just like fully loses it and like walks off down the hallway, not realizing that the Doctor has done the old switcheroo and he's still holding the bomb. But when I vividly remember when I read that scene, the way I pictured it was like he was in this massive open hall, and it's framed in the book like it's a wide shot, and he just like runs screaming, and like halfway through he just explodes like something out of a Monty Python skit.
That is funny. There's something. This is a small detail that I wanted to talk about, but speaking of distasteful morals of a particular era, that story that is told by Garen to the Doctor, where he says, "Oh yeah, I sold the Sydney Harbour to an Arab," and then the Doctor's just laughing throughout that whole bit of the conversation. It's like, haha, yeah, racism. That's funny, right? That was
I interpret that as the Doctor. I interpret that as the Doctor just like mirroring Garen to stay in his good books so he can do that swap later. I don't really assume. I don't see that as the Doctor like fully condone, like fully like agreeing with what the sentiment of this is.
So you think he was kind of?
I will say, devil's advocate, referring to someone by their nationality or race, the context is what informs whether or not that is intended to be like. Obviously, we wouldn't just go around calling someone an Arab now. That's clearly in our cultural context racist to do. But like, I think if I was like telling a story and I was like, and a black guy was there, that's just a descriptor. But if I'm telling a story and I'm like, and obviously the black guy did racist stereotype thing, there's a difference there. So like, charitable interpretation of it, which probably is, I'll concede is more charitable than it deserves. Garen's just mentioning that the guy was Arabic, and there is nothing more to be read into it beyond that.
I suppose.
Like, to use an example, there is an episode of Star Trek.
Fuck's sake.
So there's a scene in an original series episode where Abe Lincoln mysteriously appears on the Enterprise. And before they figure out why, there's a moment where he's on the bridge and he sees Uhura and he's like, "My God, you have a negress working alongside you." And then he catches himself and says, "I'm sorry, my dear. I realize some people in my time use that word to describe people that they would claim as property." And Uhura's just like, "Wait, what? That was supposed to be insulting?" And Kirk explains, "We're so far beyond that like words like that just don't have any power over anyone anymore. That's just a descriptor." And it could be a bit like that. I don't think Garen is necessarily as idealistic a depiction of humanity's future as that episode of Star Trek is trying to be like, but like, he could have been more racist, I guess. Is the point I'm ultimately getting at.
Fair enough.
I kind of feel like I don't know how I feel about it could have been worse as a justification. Like, it certainly could have been, and it certainly isn't terrible, but like, it's Fitz is like right to point out that it's like it's not amazing.
I mean, I guess this to me is just more of like the example of what we were talking about earlier, where it's like, okay, how much of this is the characters being a certain way, and how much of it is the writers writing everyone in a way that reflects the culture that they exist in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna say, like, I didn't even clock that Garen had said that, so like, I'm not necessarily falling on one side or another, but like, I feel like
ultimately, I will say the later part of the story involves he attacked me with a machine gun, which is probably a bit more racially charged.
Yeah. Like, I mainly, it's not even like this episode in a vacuum. I feel like we've gone to the it could have been worse a lot when we've talked about Classic Who, like, as a whole over the past like 3.5 years we've been doing this, and like, I don't know.
Yeah, could have been better.
No,
it also could have been better.
Yes, I feel like saying could have been worse isn't enough. You also have to say could have been better.
Yeah.
Look,
I think like that's the unsaid thing that underpins every time we talk about
this. Look, I'll say this in regards to this topic. I love old movies. I love classic movies from various eras. If you're going to be a fan of older movies, you have to get used to the idea that there are some very ethically sketchy things in a lot of these movies that, I mean, they vary in levels of sketchiness and what the specific sketchiness is, but that's part of it, unfortunately. And as fascinating as it is to look at, culture sort of put into a bottle of, say, a film, right? Like, it's a depiction of how this time and place worked. As fascinating as it is, yeah, there's disturbing stuff in it. And on one and when it comes to Doctor Who, when we're doing this podcast, given that I'm a person who does enjoy, old and classic movies, I always try to keep the ethics of these issues at the front of my mind, because I want to make sure that I'm acknowledging these issues and how, as you say, Cuff, how it definitely could have been better. That being said, Sam kind of has a point in that these are, whenever we find these problematic issues, they are a symptom of these historical contexts, and it doesn't excuse them, but it's something to keep in mind, I suppose. That's how I feel about it.
I mean, we find moments like this in New Who as well, all the time.
That's
so
true.
Yeah.
It's not a problem that goes away. It just changes the specifics of what about it is a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've spent a bit of time praising the world building, or at least I did. I was like, oh man, like, you have a full and clear picture of Ribos by the end of this, and like, oh yeah, it's a fully fleshed out world. It all makes sense. Can I tell you the thing that stuck out to me is kind of like, oh, this seems like a bit of a forced thing, and it's like. It's a quote unquote primitive world. They don't have a huge amount of technology. It's come across as sort of like a not very well advanced planet, and then out of fucking nowhere, 70% of the way through the story, the psychic appears, and I don't believe it had been hinted at that this is a thing that is a part of their culture, or is like a thing that even some people on this planet can do. There is just a full-on seeker prophecy creator who is correct about everything, and I don't know. I feel like it wasn't really. They didn't set it up at all. She just appeared out of nowhere towards the end of the story, and it took me off guard for a bit. And I was like, "Hang on a minute, wait, what? This is a thing? What are we doing here?"
I mean, yes, I agree. It comes out of nowhere, but it didn't really feel that out of place to me. But I think part of the problem is that the 6 characters that we focus on for most of let's out of the 7 main characters in this story, only one of them is actually from Ribos, and we don't meet him until episode 3 either. So like to an extent, as much as like we have Garen being like, yes, I've done my research, I know what to tell the Graph to be able to get around the particulars of this society. It does make sense to some extent that, like, well, what reason do they have to talk about the psychics or to bring them up at all? So, like, yeah, it comes out of left field, but it feels believable enough to me that it doesn't really bother me.
I don't know. It was just kind of a bit of a I thought I had a clear picture of this world, and then at the 11th hour, I've got this now. It felt like it was kind of. Also, a bit unnecessary. I feel like there was another way they could have gotten where they needed to go without introducing a psychic. So to me, that just made it stick out even more. But whatever.
Yeah. Like I say, you're not wrong. I just wasn't bothered by it.
Yeah, sure. Is there much else to say?
Well, okay, I have my last Sam reading this book as a child revelation. I don't know why I did this, but fairly early on, I took the characters of Garen and Unstoff, and I was like, from an alien planet, there's a big guy and a little guy, and I transposed the voices and appearances of Jumba and Pleakley from Lilo and Stitch.
That's so good.
And like,
I mean,
I started doing it to the point that I was mentally replacing their names.
That's amazing.
As well.
It fits surprisingly well.
It did. That's why I kept doing it.
That rules.
And I don't think they stuck in my mind as clearly, but I think as a result of doing that, I ended up picturing um Shellac as Gantu and the graph with like the physical appearance of the ground cancer woman. Because
That's
like
great.
it's alien androgen, like whatever.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
could be a
yeah.
dude, whatever, fuck it. So I just imagine like all these like weird fantastical cartoon aliens in these roles, even though it doesn't make sense because they have to pass for the locals.
Yeah.
Although I guess that is a big part of Lilo and Stitch, where they just do the bare
That's
minimum
true.
and everyone just accepts it.
Yeah, kind of. Also, I really enjoy Garen and Unstoffer's characters to the point that when we got to the end of Destroy, I'm like, I want more of these guys. I want these
Oh
guys to
yeah.
show
Yeah.
up
Just these
show
two
up in a
cosmic
like a big
grifters.
finish
It's great.
storyline. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
Like every time they show up and they're like playing a character, and then afterwards Garen's like, "You fucking, why'd you add in this shit about your dad in the mine? You're not a fucking drama student. Just tell them what they need to know."
just a cosmic version of that dude in the early 1900s who would frequently sell the Brooklyn Bridge to people. It's really fun.
yeah, like and they do have an antagonism there, but when it's revealed really at the end that there's a sense of affection between them, which I really appreciate. And I love that line when Garen says, "You know, I was going to make a melodramatic speech, but my throat is dry," and that works because
I mean,
it's funny, obviously, but I do think that there is still a sentimentality to it, which I really appreciate.
the episode doesn't really make use of it as much as it could, but they do kind of mirror the Doctor and Romana as like a mentor apprentice dynamic.
Yeah, a little bit.
A
Yeah,
bit,
that's
yeah.
true. But yeah, I also agree, Sam. They don't do a lot with it, and maybe that's because
Yeah.
Romana doesn't interact with, I think, either Garen or on
Well,
Stoff
she
that
interacts
much.
with Garen because they get arrested together and they
And Garen
end up.
abandons her.
Yeah,
Well,
but it's
because
not as much as the
he's a conniving piece of shit con
well,
man.
but not as much as the Doctor, right? The Doctor has that long
Yeah.
conversation with him. So maybe that's the reason why the parallels weren't able to be built upon, but it's still interesting to point them out because I think that they're definitely there.
Yeah.
So they end up making off with the key to time. There's there's a fun scene. There's a fun version of the whole. Oh, he doesn't know I stole it. Well, he does, and
Yeah.
I stole. It's like moving the
I
cup
do
around.
like that Garen's like, how did you pull the old switcheroo with the Jethric and the bomb? And he's like, oh, I couldn't possibly tell you that, Garen. And then Garen's like, whoa, I did the old switcheroo and gave him a rock. There's no way that. Oh wait, no, he just did the same thing he did to. Fuck. Well, at least this isn't a bomb.
Yeah. And then
And like
the
I always love the gag of the con man being
being
conned.
con.
It's like you just
Yeah.
can't trust anyone these days.
Yeah,
I don't know
that
how
was
people
funny.
live with themselves.
Yeah,
It's great.
but yeah,
Yeah.
they're really good
And then
characters, and it.
the Jethric completely morphs into a piece of the key, and then we have a little
5
mission
more to
statement for
go.
the rest of the season. 5 to go.
Yeah.
And it's all wrapped up in a lovely little bow.
In a neat little package.
So yeah, and you know what? Like I said, at the beginning I didn't love this story, but now that I've watched it twice and we've discussed it, I actually enjoy it. I think more than I gave it credit for.
Yeah, I think it does a lot of really cool stuff that Doctor Who doesn't do that often. But that's to its strength for the most part. You know, as prime directive as it is, I feel like that story serves Doctor Who well every now and then. You know, it's nice to every now and then land on a planet that isn't, you know, just aware of their place in the universe. I feel like strangely that doesn't happen as often as you'd think in Doctor Who.
Oh. Well, it's not because it's nice to have a mix of both.
Yeah.
To like have it actually it kind of reminds me of the dynamic you get in the Doctor Dances and the Empty Child when they meet Jack. And they're like, oh yeah, everyone else thinks this is 1940s World War II, because it is. But then we got this guy, and he knows shit that we know. So that's always fun.
Also a con artist.
Also a con artist.
Interesting.
Could Jack perhaps be a descendant of Garen or Unstoff? Or both?
I mean, I'm going to say both.
Yowie Mpreg, Garen Unstoff spin-off?
Okay, now I'm not going to say that.
Well, this is the first time in podcast history that the Omegaverse has been brought into discussion, so thank you for that, Sam.
Money's on the table, Big Finish. It's up to you to take.
Hey, no. We already had Mpreg. We had it with the 13th Doctor in the episode with Pating.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So we know how that goes in Doctor Who. You want more of that?
You know, yeah, but like those weren't characters that I cared about.
Oh yeah, no, it wasn't good.
Yeah. Mpreg isn't good because it's Mpreg. Mpreg's good because it's Sonic and Shrek and they're giving birth to SpongeBob.
My point is, with Doctor Who, there's already precedent for Mpreg. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. So exactly.
Yeah.
That means it can happen.
We know it can happen. And it's just a wasted opportunity until someone does something with it.
It's times like this that makes me glad we don't have an online fan base big enough that we get fan art. Because this would be a fucking mine, like a gold mine for them.
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
We don't have a listening audience big enough that we frequently get fan art based on stuff that we say. And I'm very appreciative of that in this moment. That being said, I know that Sam herself is an artist, and the fact that I haven't heard much from her in the last minute means that she's almost certainly going to her sketchbook and is beginning her newest art project.
I mean, I was thinking I didn't want to say it because it would sound conceited, but I was thinking to myself, I'm probably the listener with, at least as far as we know, out of our regular listeners.
Yeah.
I am probably the one with the most capability of creating Garen Unstoff Mpreg Yowie. So
that's not the style that you're known for, though.
No. If I made them both women,
that would be your style.
There we go.
That would make sense.
But it would fly in the very face of what you're asking.
Like the fact that they would be pregnant would be much less
appealing.
And it would go from Yowie.
I was going to say noteworthy, but I guess appealing works too. Sure.
Let's score this episode. What are we giving Ribos Operation?
I'm going to give it a 6.
I'm giving it an 8.
Yeah, I was tossing between a 7 and an 8.
Has the Mpreg done more to shift it up or down for you? What do you think?
Well, I'm weighing up the Mpreg with the bin row scene that I was very fond of, and unfortunately your comment just now has put it to a 7, so well done.
The score, the ending of this podcast ruined by Mpreg.
So next time on the podcast, we will be reviewing Silence in the Library and Forest of the Dead. It's a big one.
Has a lot of impact on the coming seasons of Doctor Who. A lot of impact that I am not terribly fond of, but we'll get to that later.
But until then, I'm Alex.
I'm Fitz.
I'm Sam.
And 5 to go. We do indeed have 5 Key to Time episodes left.
Hmm.
I wonder if the Doctor's going to say that at the end of every Key to Time story.